All right, so in this video, I quickly want to talk about the load that we have added and the response that we're getting from by adding this load. And again, this is just to get you guys comfortable with the Pscad environment. This is not necessarily a power system analysis that we're performing, but initially what I noticed that when we added the load and we had a breaker over here, and that breaker every time it's closing in, it was not providing a straight line like this, but rather a very oscillatory response. So the first thing I wanted to kind of show you guys that, as you can see, that when we don't have a breaker in play, we have a clean response where we have a 300 megawatts over here, we have a 230 kV voltage, and then we have the associated RMS voltage over here as well. I have the instantaneous voltage here and instantaneous current just turned off for now. It just slows the computer down for me at the moment. So, but yeah, you can see that we're getting a clean response. But as soon as I add a breaker in the play, and then we're gonna, if I now enable this as well, you will notice the simulations. Sorry, the you'll see in the simulation that the oscillations will start to come into play. So let's just give it a minute here and see what we see. So my settings are that after 50, initially the breaker will be open, and then as it hits the 50 seconds, it will close the breaker. So there we go. It starts out with a breaker open. You can see it's green. It's kind of going there. And then as soon as it hits 50, it has now closed the breaker. But you can clearly see that the power that we're getting is no longer just a straight, but rather it's oscillating. So this is happening because of the breaker. And if for the rest of the tutorials, we can remove the breaker as well, because again, we're not going to get into details of the why these oscillations are occurring. That would be more of an advanced topic. But at the moment, I want you to be aware that this is happening because of the breaker. And I'll also wanted to be able to get into what is defined as an oscillation. So I'm going to now start, just pause the simulation here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn on the uh, the three-phase voltage and then the three-phase current as well in this view. So I want to show you what is defined as an oscillation. And sometimes it could be confusing for some of the newer users as to when we talk about power voltage oscillating or power oscillating, what does it really mean by that in the world of power systems? Because what happens is we see that the voltages right here, like I mean, this is voltage is oscillating. So like anytime in normal even situation, normal circuit, if you have three-phase currents, they're all kind of doing that. They are sine waves. So sine waves are they not oscillating? So really, when you think about voltage oscillating or power oscillating, we're not talking about the natural behavior of a sine wave, but rather what we're talking about here is this, that generally speaking, let's say if you have a current, you may have a current like this, let's say in one like that and like that. So you notice that the peaks, as long as the peaks are same right here like that, right? The peaks are the same, then it's not necessarily an oscillation. So in our case here, I can tell you that our voltage, so our power is equal to, let's say voltage times current times um, times times cos phi, or basically the real component of the current is what I'm trying to get at. So in this case, you can see our voltage is fine. Our voltage peaks are not changing, but rather we can notice that one of the phases is not in line with the other phases for the current, and that phase, over time is kind of like, it will continue to decrease. So I'll kind of show you guys as well. You can see that, it's kind of decreasing. So the other two phases are equal, but they're kind of rising. And then the phase A is more, has a higher peak than the other ones. And then over time it's kind of merging. This is why the power is being so current being multiplied by the power is giving you the, sorry, current multiplied by the voltage is giving you the power. And then over time, the voltage is already clean. It's just the current which has one of the phases a little bit out, and then it's kind of getting better. But so coming back to the definition of an oscillation, so if you have, let's say in this case, voltage source is clean. So you may say, hey, what about these sine waves? Like, are they not oscillating? Well, yeah, but when we think of oscillations, think of now RMS value for 1 sec. So generally, if you have a straight wave like this, your RMS value is kind of like straight line, just like this one over here. So you generally would have V peak to peak divided by root 2 is equal to V RMS, right? Now, but what if you have a situation where you have one wave, in one instance it's kind of like that, and then the other one is kind of like this, and then it's like this, and then it's like that, and maybe it's like this, and then it's like this. And if your current is doing that, so if you were to kind of look at your RMS value, it would look something like this. So you can see in this case, your voltage, let's say, RMS is straight, or any wave per se. In this case, I'm talking about voltage. But if your voltage peaks were changing up and down, right, then the RMS value would also change. And this is what we call then an oscillatory behavior. So if you have a wave that is consistent in its peaks, so that all the peaks are the same and then the phases are the same, then that's the sign what we're looking for. But when the peaks start to change in one cycle and then they're change in the other one, like that, or if they start to get narrower, the frequencies are changing, that is then what we call not a stable system sometimes, or that's not a normal behavior of a system. So there's a difference between the natural way of how the sine wave is, that it's a wave. It's got the peaks, and it's got the frequency, or a time period for per wave. But as long as they stay consistent, it's fine. But if the response starts to get smaller, or if the wave period starts to change, or if it gets peakier, and then even if the peak is smaller or bigger than the normal values, then that's what we call an oscillatory behavior, and which is a problem in power system analysis.